Welcome back, everybody, to Ravenstar's Witching Hour. I'm your host, Leir Blue Raven, and I'm here with my special guest, Steve Colbern. And Steve, you with me?
Yeah, hi.
Great. Yeah, so we were discussing a lot of different things here, but what I'd like to ask you is, what do you think, why have we not had any real backup coming from quote-unquote off-world species? Obviously, there's been some kind of interaction. We've gotten flashes of information here and there. Obviously, they've acquired some kind of exotic technology over the years. Why do you think we really have no backup for those of us who are like what I call star beings?
Well, we do and we don't. It's like they want to keep their hands off our lives as much as possible, because the life of every star being or abductee on Earth, it's like an experiment to them, and the more they interfere, with the experiment, and they can't sort out their interference from natural events. So they want to find out what their genetic modification and influence during the abductions does to people's lives. Mm-hmm. And the other reason is to try to have the abductees and star people keep a low profile down here for obvious reasons. And they do intervene. It's pretty well documented that they do tend to intervene when the person's life is in danger. They'll allow a lot of abductees to go through hell, but they don't want them dead. I mean, there's too much invested in a lot of them.
Right. Can you do me a favor and try to talk a little bit closer to your phone or something? Yeah, I'm sorry. It's just people are having a hard time understanding you.
Yeah, they do tend to intervene if some life-threatening situation comes up that threatens the life of the subject involved. They don't particularly seem to care if people go through hell down here, but they definitely don't want people dead after all that training and years of time invested in them. So
mm-hmm. Well, it seems like an awful waste if you don't utilize your skills, whether it's your brain or whatever gifts you have. It seems like an awful waste of quote unquote time and the illusion of time. Not to quote that movie Contact, but isn't it? I think you said it's an awful waste of space, but I think it's an awful waste of time and the illusion if you're not doing what you're meant to do here on this world, or off world for that matter.
Yeah, I mean, people that are involved with the aliens have a secret life, even they don't know what's up with that. So it's quite common for people not to remember anything about the time with the aliens and that repression. So who knows what a lot of people are doing, but it does leave a lot of people really in the lurch. And I think if the aliens were about it, some people say they are, which I don't think is the case. I still think their biggest misdeed would be to storm through people into worlds like that without knowing what's going on.
Mm-hmm. Well, I don't know about you, but I've said it before. I'm all ready to get off this planet and go to another one that's a little more advanced than this. This is not good enough for me.
Well, me too. If I had transportation off this planet,
this is like a playground for the psychotic. I can't deal with it anymore. I'm like, this isn't working here.
Maybe on some levels.
I mean, my dog is more intelligent than half the stuff. I mean, I don't want to say people, but seriously. I mean, come on. So, don't get me started. I'm in an interesting mood tonight. So, but I agree with you on a lot of different levels with that. But I do think that the screen memories and a lot of alternate memories are created by the underground to skew people from remembering true celestial heritage, or what I call the off-world connection. We have a natural ability to communicate and connect in with source, what I call source. So, I mean, if they're running interference, which I know they do, that would explain a lot of the sabotage. And, of course, we have NSA.
Part of the reason that the aliens want to abduct humans is because humans have, at least the more evolved humans, have psychic abilities that they don't.
Right.
Such as the ability to connect to source, like you're talking about. And before I forget, I'd just like to also mention that the DVD Watchers 8 just came out, and I'm in that, and there's a scene in there where Roger Leir and I and Leir Julie are doing the SUM work on December 17, so that might be anything to tune into for listeners to this program tonight.
Excellent. So that's DVD Watchers 8? Go ahead.
Yeah, Watchers 8, and I haven't seen it yet, but I hear it's good. So.
Okay, is that on Amazon, or how do they get that?
I think you have to order it directly from Rick Shaw or Ellie Marzulli's website, but Amazon may have it as well. I believe they didn't say that Amazon said to get it, but yeah, you can check those two places.
That's excellent. Yeah, I think you should take a good look at that. Well, I mean, this is real information. I mean, we're not talking stuff out the wazoo. Even if you don't understand what we're talking about, I mean, it's all credible data. We're dealing with technology, and that's really what it boils down to. Whether you want to accept extraterrestrials or not, that doesn't even matter. Bottom line is it's technology, and it's being interfaced with people in the world. And it's not being addressed, it's not being communicated because you've got everybody and their mother skewing the truth. And I'm tired of it. Personally,
well,
I hate
wherever it comes from, whether it comes from the planet Mars, Zeta Reticuli 4, or the garage of some super genius on Earth, the technology's out there. They've got technology that's like 100 years in advance of anything in civilian science. And meanwhile, we're still doing stuff in most respects besides computers and communications the same way we did 50 friggin' years ago. And the rate of progress in most fields is just anemic. I mean, it's being deliberately slowed down, and it can't continue. It's ruining our economy.
Yeah, not only is it being slowed down, it's coming to a halt, Steve. I mean, they're literally putting the brakes on any kind of technology except for the underground technology. That's going full speed ahead.
Yeah, I think we've actually gone backwards in some fields. I think we're more advanced in the 60s and 70s than we are now in some fields, like fuel cells, for example.
Well, yeah, and most of everything is manufactured outside the U.S. And I mean, a long time ago when things were built here, we actually did a good job, making things, basically, you know. So. Sure.
Americans are some of the best manufacturers in the world.
I mean, cheaper isn't better. Sorry, you know.
Yeah. No, especially with high tech, you generally get what you pay for.
Oh, absolutely. Now, how much crap do we get from it? You know, it's like it costs them nothing to make it. They bring it back over here, and it's garbage. It doesn't even last you. You know, and that's supposed to be better for us. Better for what? Better for the economy. It's not helping Americans. You know, and that's another thing too.
The whole deal about shipping all of their manufacturing jobs overseas, that was a stupid idea from the get-go. They were just going to benefit the 1%. They're somehow bamboozle people into thinking it was a good idea, but the reason we never did it before because it does not benefit the average American. It benefits the 1%. People wouldn't be good for it before, but now people don't know basic economics.
I agree. You know what I think they need to do is just take the 1% and then distribute the wealth to everybody. How's that sound?
I think so too. I'm generally against that kind of socialist stuff. But
I'm not.
In that case, when people have so much money that it's impoverishing everybody else, that's just not right.
It's off balance, basically.
That gives real communist ammunition, and it shouldn't be allowed.
Yeah, no, I agree with you on that one. Look how much property they own. Look at the land. I mean, look at the queen. I don't know how she got to be queen, honestly. I mean, when you look at the bloodlines of these people, it's almost laughable. But at the same time, I mean, you've got people there in their quote-unquote hotels, I call them hotels, that are literally calling the shots. They don't even know what's going on. Half of them probably have dementia. I'm not kidding you, and I'm not trying to be rude. But the bottom line is we've got some serious issues here on this planet, and those of us who are awake, I mean, at least are obligated to address it. Now, how do you get these people to, like, first of all, they're squatting in territory they don't belong in. You've got to get them out of there, get them out of their squatting zones, which would be these high officials in these areas. So, I mean, it's a mess. And like I said before, you need backup for it. We need like 1 billion and one Robocop.
Strict term limits would be a big step in the right direction. If the monkeys can't be in there long enough to form a political machine, then the corruption will be minimized. It's the principle of that.
Yeah.
I'm sure it takes at least 8 years to form a really good, well-connected old boy network. So at the end of the time they're out of there, they'll be minimizing corruption.
Well, you know what? I'm just glad I'm not at that end of the whole thing. You know, I'm glad that I did the good job while I was here on this planet. I can at least walk away saying I tried my best. I did my best here while I was on Earth. These guys can't say that. You know, that's the bottom line. They went out of their way to basically destroy things, and not for the better. It's one thing to take something down and rebuild it for the better, but they're not doing that. You know, they're destroying things, they're putting things in reverse, or they're not in connection to higher levels of consciousness to a point where they can even make a rational decision about anything. It's a disaster.
Well, the difference between the old politics and what we got now is that the politicians used to just try to take cookies out of the jar once in a while and nobody was looking. Now they're trying to sell the whole jar to somebody else.
Oh, and they don't care if you're looking either, by the way. Now they're blatantly honest. I mean,
they don't care if you're looking too much anymore either.
They'll look right at you, and they'll take money right out of your wallet and smile and walk away. That's their mentality. Hey, it's transparency. It's good, right? That's exactly what they're doing. So, yeah, it's really twisted and weird, and, you know, what are you going to do, right? I'm still looking for my Doctor Who.
There's not much you can do, and at least several percent of the people committed to being involved with them.
I don't think they're going to do anything until it gets so uncomfortable that they have to say or do something. I really don't think they're going to do anything. That's what I see. But you know what? Take a good look at your grocery store, folks. I mean, honestly, the food prices are going up. They're skyrocketing. I think Hawk is right. Get that feed package, because grow your own food. I mean, do whatever you can to be self-sufficient, because you don't want to be part of this equation anymore. I don't want to keep feeding these imbeciles. I mean, they're charging outrageous amounts of money for everything. I'm not doing this anymore. I don't know about you guys, but I'm done with it. This is ridiculous. And then you work your butt off all day, and what are you saving money for? What? A mortgage to some place you don't even own that can be taken from you?
Well, yeah, the property taxes are really unfair, because that means you don't really own any land anymore. If you have to pay the government or they take it away from you, you're renting it from the government. You really don't own it.
Exactly.
That's a philosophical argument that's lost on some people for some reason.
Well, what's interesting is it's been a mind game since day one, and somehow, I don't know what happened. I don't know what kind of Kool-Aid they were passing out, but somehow they all got on board with this, and everybody thought this was the way it was supposed to be, and it's not the way it's supposed to be at all. And it's gotten to the point where, it's so corrupt. I mean, we talked about this, like that, this town needs an enema. It's really, this country needs a huge colonic, without a doubt. So,
they don't believe in the rule of law anymore. Even the people don't believe in the rule of law anymore. They believe in just expediency.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes you have to sacrifice something to maintain the rule of law. If you have a hard and fast set of rules, they don't want a hard and fast set of rules. It just anything goes, and when anything goes, and there's too much instability, and it's hard to really form a stable economy and society based on that.
Mm-hmm. There's no accountability. That's the biggest beef I have. These guys are getting away with
accountability.
I mean, where's the accountability?
The masses can be held accountable, but not the 1%.
Right.
But
Exactly.
The representatives, politicians, that's bullshit.
Yeah, whoops, watch that. We're rated G here tonight, even though I'm griping away. But it's a good gripe. It's a positive gripe, and it's something that needs to happen. So, yeah, I'm usually pretty nice on air most of the time. But tonight I'm like, hey, we've got a super full moon, and I think we're just kind of fed up. So, anyway.
Yeah, I'm fed up with the lack of accountability, for sure.
Oh, yeah.
That's starting to...
I don't care what they do with their lives, but when they start making everybody else's life a mess, I have an issue with that. It's as simple as that. It's like a drug addict. If you want to be a drug addict, do it alone. Don't pull everybody in for the ride. And that's what's happening here in this country. So,
yeah.
Well, we can run for president. We've got crazy Hillary Clinton thinking she can run in 2016. Is that what I heard?
Mm-hmm.
And and what else? I don't even want to ask.
Why anybody even consider voting for somebody like that is beyond me.
The bottom line is there's no point in even voting anymore. It's all a scam. It's all crazy. I'm telling you, the whole system needs to be regenerated.
Well, the last time I voted, it just took 3 hours out of my life. I had to wait in a big line with a bunch of lowlifes, and then the election went against me on every front, so why bother?
Yeah, well, it's amazing to me what has happened in the past 8 years. I'm just really amazed watching this country go down the sewer. And everybody's just like, oh, this is great. Nothing's wrong with America. I'm like, are you kidding me? Are you people nuts? I mean, seriously.
Well, a constitutional law professor, I think at Cornell, recently said that denial is a big, not beyond just partisan politics, denial is a big part of the problem in America right now. And people just are in total denial of even having problems at all to even talk about.
Right. I think it's like they're on medication, too. I bet you anything. They're all on prescription meds. They're like on Prozac or something to keep them calm, or they're zoned out, so that they're not paying attention to what's happening here. I mean, it reminds me of Invasion of the Body Snatchers. Everybody's in la la land. And, I guess it's to each his own, but at the same time, we're like on the Titanic and the ship's sinking, and I don't think we have any life rafts right now. So that's not good.
Yeah. Not at all.
As simple as that. And I guess maybe that's why I'm concerned, and I guess people who actually have firing neurons should be concerned as well. Because this isn't a game. This isn't a joke. This is we're dealing with generations of people who fought for this country, who have sacrificed their lives for this country. I know my ancestors came over on my mother's side on the Mayflower, and obviously you can take that for what it's worth, but we busted our butts fighting for this country and protecting it. We were always in the military, defending this country, and it's sickening to me to watch what's happening here right now. That's all there is to it.
Yeah, well, like you pointed out before, both of us are Native Americans, or as native as you can get without being an Indian. So it's sickening to me to see what's going on here too.
Yeah, I mean, it's like my ancestors must be rolling in their graves right now. I mean, seriously. So, and there's nothing. I mean, what are we going to do? I mean, obviously we're out here communicating the truth, but honestly, it's going to take somebody who really is a mover and a shaker to help change this world for the better. And it probably is going to take a group of people, a large group of people, but we need backup. We don't have backup, and nobody has the courage to come forward. No division has the courage to make some positive changes on behalf of this country. Apparently, they don't love this land enough, and they don't care enough about their fellow man to help. Instead, they'd rather collect their money and keep their mouths shut and think life's going to get all groovy, when in fact it's not.
Yeah. As far as alien backup is concerned, I think that we're probably going to get it after whatever catastrophe happens.
Well, it's kind of like too little, too late. As far as I'm concerned, we are the extraterrestrials we seek. I mean, obviously we're star beings, we're star people. I always, we exist in a matrix, but we are a celestial design. Whether people want to acknowledge that or not, that's their trip. But the bottom line is you are dealing with a spiritual being in a matrix on this world. And now we're dealing with a false matrix because it's all a compilation of virtual crap. None of it's real. But that's saying nothing real exists. It's just about that. It's all about energy and frequency. We can come up with any picture we want through frequency, anything. It's all holographic. So, I mean, we could change it tomorrow through consciousness. And I keep telling people this all the time. You can change it by thought alone. And this is why they use psychotronic warfare. They want your thoughts. They want to control and manipulate you so you cannot raise the consciousness, so that you are dumbed down and, everything is just part of their own little groove and little tiny system of illusion where they can control and manipulate. Well, those games are done. I'm done with it. I'm not playing it. And I hope there are enough people out there who don't play it either.
Yeah. How do you influence things through thought alone? Is there some very effective way to do that?
Well, to me, it's merging with your higher self, oversoul, superconscious, and following what I call source energy, which means you get away from all the lower astral debris, the mental body, the emotional body, all this stuff that we're constantly being bombarded with, and the programming that they're dumping on us since our birth here onto this world. And you start overriding that through your own spiritual evolution. But, people are not evolving spiritually anymore. I mean, I don't think they are. I think they're all stuck to their iPhones, or they're watching television. They're not balancing it out. I mean, it's one thing to work on your computer. It's another thing not to, you have to have a balance. You can't just sit there and be stuck on a computer all day. I just couldn't do it all the time. And plus I've been interfaced with other stuff, but so it's pretty mad without a doubt. So you are starting your own business though, aren't you, Steve?
I put in a business name at the county recorder's office a few weeks ago called Ravenstar Nanotechnology, and I'm starting to get some equipment. So
cool. Love the name.
Try to make money purifying and selling carbon nanotubes for one thing, and they're doing some consulting work as well.
Sweet. So it's going to be called Ravenstar Nanotechnology?
Ravenstar Nanotechnology, and I'm also starting, or at least formalizing the name of my other business, Alien Evidence Inc.
Excellent, awesome. Well, that's exciting. In a world that's very strange.
Yeah.
I mean,
eventually, when I get a lab, I want to combine the two and use the Ravenstar Nanotechnology Labs to analyze the alien material I get through the other company.
Yeah, you think people would be chomping at the bit to help you out with the lab and help you and fund this program. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's just amazing to me that people don't put much emphasis on things that are what I would consider very important.
Yeah, it all goes with they're all watching television and not spiritually evolving, I guess.
Well, I guess you are what you eat, and also it's kind of like, if you do nothing, you get nothing. That's the bottom line. So that's their choice. But I'm not going to be along for the ride. I'm not playing that card. So, and I'm sure there are many people out there listening who don't want to play that card either. So the alternative is to try to, I guess, be as self-sufficient as you can and hold the vision and run the energy and make the energy to create a better world by whatever means we can. I'm not accepting this. This is not good enough. I've said that before. What we're dealing with right now is just not acceptable. And I wish everybody in this country alone, I mean, the world too, would see it like that. This is why are they complacent? What are they thinking? Doesn't make any sense.
A lot of them are just plain scared, and a lot of them just don't care, I guess. And that's the only thing I can say.
Well, it's interesting because, they're talking about all these water shortages, and yet, when I went to Vegas, it was a really nice little trip out there, obviously, to the Mind Control Summit. But what's interesting, they have all these water fountains, and they're just launching water around, and yet they say, oh, well, we all need to conserve on water. Well, why don't they start with some kind of a laser light show instead of using water fountains at these big hotels? That's a start, right?
Yeah.
I mean, where's their brains? What are they thinking?
Yeah, in California, agriculture uses like 80% of the water, and yet they're trying to penalize all the homeowners. I mean, you'd think that they'd have agriculture conserve at least a little bit first.
Yeah, well, these days it's going to be illegal to fly a kite, I mean, I guess people are getting in trouble for flying their own drones now, too. I heard something about it. I don't know. I think it's kind of funny, though.
Flying their own drones?
Yeah, I guess they're interfering with fireworks or something. I thought I saw an article on that. But, it's funny because whenever you come up with technology, there's going to be somebody out there to counter it.
People have been flying remote control aircraft for years. I mean, that's
Oh, that's true, too. Yeah.
Well, they make everything else against the law, so nothing would surprise me, I guess.
Mm-hmm. So what is your take on, synthesizing water?
Synthesizing water? The only way to synthesize it is to either derive it out of the rocks or synthesize it from the elements. There's not enough hydrogen and oxygen on Earth in free form to do that. So maybe deriving it out of the rocks would be like the only form to synthesize it. Mm-hmm. That takes a lot of energy. And
am I boring you?
No, not at all. I'm just
I know you're
feeling under the weather. But desalinating ocean water is the way to go. But no matter how you do it, that takes a lot of energy. It's not economical for very large scale use. If energy became a lot cheaper, then it might be economical, or barely.
Well, obviously, we have a lot of water.
Santa Barbara built a big reverse osmosis unit to desalinate ocean water and make what they found out was economical. So,
yeah. I don't believe we have a water shortage at all. I think that's a bunch of crap, personally. But I'm always looking.
I know we did not have an oil shortage, so it wouldn't surprise me if there was no water shortage either.
Well, you've heard the information. I guess they were talking about, an ocean underneath the United States, right?
Yeah.
So obviously we have aquifers that are pretty darn deep and other things that are going on.
But is that fresh water or salt water? If it's fresh water, then I guess you're absolutely right.
I'm not sure offhand. I'll have to check that. It's a good question. If anybody knows, let me know. But, the synthesizing the water would be a really nice type of technology, I think, to look at. And I've mentioned this before with other people and other scientists, and I get pretty much a similar response to what you gave me. But I think that's one of the waves of the future. So you've heard it here first. I don't know how that's going to formulate, but I think that is. And I also think, there's other things, but I'll mention that some other time. But I think that's one of the ways to go anyway. So, all right. So let's see here. Let's give everybody the name of your website one more time, and also how they can get a hold of you if they wanted to get an implant analysis scan or an assessment.
Okay, the website is www.alienevidenceinc.webs.com. And if you want to scan, I'm in the Southern California area, near Camarillo, California, and my phone number is 805-746-7402. You can call me and make an appointment. And my website address is s_Colbern, COLBERN @yahoo.com.
Excellent. Yeah. And thanks for hanging out with us tonight, too. I know you don't feel good, and I really appreciate you being here, by the way. Oh.
Sure, no problem.
Yeah. Well, we're doing fine. You only have over half an hour to go. But another thing is using sonic technology also. I think that would be something to look into. What's your take on that?
Sonic technology to do what?
Basically to replace water or the use for water, showers, things like that.
Oh boy, I would think that ultrasonic technology might damage the body, but
you think? What if you alter the frequency, though?
I suppose the ultra high frequency, so it just went along the outside of your body.
Yeah.
but I really have no data on how that works to get rid of dirt and oil and such on your skin.
Right. I just see that down the road too.
I want to be a guinea pig to try it.
No, that's okay. I'll be a guinea pig. I don't care. But I just think that's something that could be done actually, and who knows? Maybe done already, someplace else.
Well, maybe. I mean, on Star Trek, they talk about sonic showers. I'm not aware of any experiments done along those lines, but maybe they have.
Well, considering the frequency can do a lot of different things, including kill bacteria and everything else, so.
Well, killing bacteria, that's doable, but actually getting you clean is another story.
Mm-hmm. Well, you clean your teeth, too, you know. Got it.
Yeah.
But I was just thinking about that.
If you combine some sonic frequencies with a toothbrush, it would make it more efficient.
Mm-hmm. Well, these are things to look at anyway down the road, which I'm sure somebody's working on somewhere in a dark corridor or in an underground. But to me, you know, if we have a quote-unquote, which I don't believe we have a water shortage at all, I believe that they're trying to privatize everything, and I think that's what's happening. But
well, they actually had some corporate idiot from Nestle on the air saying that he thought that access to water was not a human right. And
how dare he?
Huh? All the water.
No more candy bars for them. Go ahead.
You know, these corporations, I hate to say it, but these corporations, if they're given, at least big corporations, if they're given total free reign, form their own tyrannical government that's twice as tyrannical as the elected government if you let them.
Well, what's really interesting to me is, like, at some point, they had to roll up their sleeves and get involved in really working for a living. Was it all just handed to them? I mean, don't they understand or comprehend anything about their fellow man? You know, it seems to me like everybody wants to play God and King of the Hill.
Yeah, as soon as they have enough money to be totally separated from the working class and the middle class, then they lose all humanity. Apparently, that's the way most of the masses are, and non-fair people are.
You don't have to love everybody, but you don't have to sit there and try to dominate and control everybody. And I think that, you know, obviously water is critical for anyone or anything here on this world, animal, you name it, plants, people.
Sure.
No one has the right to make that claim. And actually, for that alone, I'm surprised you're still walking.
Basically, like I was saying in a backhanded manner, that anybody that couldn't afford to pay for water should just buy a thirst. I mean, that's just completely...
You know what? That tells you a lot about the type of scumbags that are wandering this world, and I really believe that there are people here who don't have souls or spirits. They have no connection to the universe in any form or design. I don't care. They're empty suits wandering around. Maybe there's too much zombie juice they've been drinking. I don't know what their problem is, but I'll tell you what. People like that are basically enemies of anyone or anything. That's the bottom line, whether it's an animal, a plant, a person, a world. It doesn't matter. If they don't respect anything, then they have no right to have money like that to begin with. And shame on that industry, and don't buy any more of those candy bars. Anybody. Get something else.
I didn't deal with Nestle at all.
Oh, it's just ridiculous. You know, when you're a kid, you grow up eating all that stuff. You know, we grew up thinking, well, you know, you never realize that the people that are creating all this industry are a bunch of jerks. I mean, I'm not saying they all are, but quite obviously, I guess the majority are. So what happened? Yeah. Did we just create a bunch of monsters by buying their food, by buying their candy? Yeah, that's pathetic, but that's what's happened. So you don't entertain the beast, I guess, is the moral to this story, right?
No, I mean, they're very into influencing society through how they place their money. We should be the same way.
Mm-hmm. Well, what goes around comes around, and I'm a firm believer that all this stuff is going to balance out. It's going to pretty much neutralize itself. I mean, it's kind of like it's just going to collapse and implode onto itself at some point. It's getting so toxic and so noxious and so dysfunctional that it doesn't have any place to go. It has to collapse. You know, that's the bottom line. But to what degree everybody suffers here on this world is another scenario during that process, and that's something I'm looking at from a distance. You know, I could think of other worlds to live on. Let me tell you, this one is not. Really don't want to be here. Really don't.
Yeah, you do both.
Yeah, I think I've had enough of planet Earth. Yeah, I think I have. I think the animals have had enough here too. And you know, we talked a little bit about Yellowstone off air. What's your take on that? You think it's just a little anomaly heating up over there?
I'm not sure. I mean, I had a gut feeling a while back that it might be about to blow, but I'm just not sure. I think that I'll say this, if it doesn't blow within 5 or 10 years, it probably won't anytime soon.
Yeah, I agree.
But if this anomaly keeps on building, then it probably probably next year or two, and probably will. So.
Well, I think you have to factor in the fracking, and you have to factor in all the things they've been doing to damage the earth deliberately. You have to factor in electromagnetic pulse weapons. Yeah, with the natural formation of the earth and everything, obviously, let nature take its course. But I think we've induced a lot of things here on this world with the technology we've been using and misusing. So that's part of it. And you kind of have to factor those things in and say, well, it might not do this for so many hundreds of years, but at the same time, if they're doing things that are pushing it, inducing it, you never know. So,
well, I know the ground below the Yellowstone Lake has risen like 5 feet in the last 2 decades. And I did a rough calculation based on the density of the rock and how far down I think the magma chamber is. And I came up with a figure of 10,000 psi pressure inside the magma chamber, and that's a lot of pressure. That's over 3 times the pressure inside an oxygen cylinder.
Mm-hmm.
All it would take is one massive earthquake, or I don't even know how massive it would have to be to put one crack down to the surface into that magma chamber, and all hell would be breaking loose. The magma would come out of there with such force that it would widen the crack, and eventually, before too long, it would just blow.
Mm-hmm.
That's probably how most of these eruptions happen in real life.
Right. Yeah.
Well, it happen about every 600,000 years, and we'll do for one, but it could be tomorrow, it could be 10,000 years from now.
Yeah, I wouldn't. Yeah, nothing to worry about, really. I'm more concerned about the what's happening here in this country, but at the same time, you know what? Excuse me, you just have to kind of let it move. I mean, literally, we've put the information out as best we can, and that's I don't know what else to do at this point. I really don't.
There may be some logic to the belief that when political turmoil happens that influences the earth, maybe there will be a lot of earthly calamities.
Oh yeah.
That'd be worth something if Yellowstone blew, and maybe another super volcano as well, and we had a couple asteroid strikes about the same time.
I laugh because honestly, between you and I know this sounds like a very dark goddess in me, but maybe that needs to happen because we are dealing with such a noxious planet right now with so much crap here with the people that maybe it takes that kind of a wake-up call for things to alter and change. But even then, it's too late, Then it's the sky is falling, and then everybody panics, and then they act like savages because there's no food. I mean, so it's like a lose-lose scenario any way you look at it, or you play it out.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'd rather be on a space station right now. I think I'd be happier watching it from a parallax view opposed to just watching the madness, interacting it here.
Although I'd like to be on Bob Bigelow's inflatable version rather than the one NASA's got up there now. That's safer.
Oh yeah, what's your take on him?
I know he's the head guy of the space program right now. I hear he gives the A or nay to all manned missions.
Yeah, that's
and he's working for the CIA and the secret government. He's active to run an aerospace company. But as far as what kind of person he is personally, I hear he's a pretty nice guy.
Well, that's good. It's funny because they're always contracted with government. You can't escape it. When you start getting really big, it's like you have to interact with them. You have to get contracted in with these divisions. It's no escape. It's a Roach Motel. It's too bad, too, because I kind of like his work, too.
Yeah, I hear he wants to have contact with the aliens in orbit. He reportedly had one contact with the aliens in the desert, and they told him that they wanted him to build his own space program and contact them in orbit. So that's what he's trying to do. And if you notice on his website, on his logo, there's a little alien face. So that's where that's coming from.
Well, since we are the aliens, I mean, this whole thing about meeting your ancestors, I guess, is really what it boils down to. And of course, guess who's trying to control that whole thing is the government, is the shadow government, obviously trying to control the relationship between us and our ancestors. Bottom line. So, yeah, it's pathetic. Yeah, I wouldn't mind. Well, I guess I would. I wouldn't want to be working for the CIA. That's for sure. They're not my style.
They just want to control everything.
Well, I don't have a problem with people doing their jobs. I'm just sick and tired of mind control. I'm sick and tired of no accountability. I'm tired of this crazy masquerade where people are just screwed over and everybody's just running this psychotic episode that's nonstop on this world. I mean, nothing's changing for the better. I'm burned out on it. And then the legacy of disease, it goes to the next generation. That's the problem. You're dealing with dysfunctional people having children with dysfunctional programming, all programmed by some form of mind control. I mean, when does it stop? It doesn't stop. That's the problem we're dealing with. Nobody's put the brakes on this.
Maybe their DNA is degenerating. Maybe all this programming is somehow degenerating their DNA. DNA is having to be manipulated by signals.
I agree. Yeah, highly possible, although it doesn't seem to affect mine, and I've been through some hellacious programs, but it took I'm sure I've said this before, it's cut my life in half, too. I would live a lot longer, and I won't now because of what's happened to me, but that's okay. I don't want to live forever on this planet anyway. But, yeah, there still needs to be accountability. What's that?
I think I'll probably live to be 100 if the government doesn't blow my head off first.
I don't think you want to live to be 100 here on this rock. Are you kidding me? When you think about it, honestly, if it's going the way it's going this past year or 2 years, I don't think I want to be here very long. I'm getting burned out real quick here. I feel sorry for the children, quite honestly. Of course, they'll probably be absorbed into transhumanism, so they won't even know, they won't have any clue what they were or what they were supposed to become. That's really unfortunate. You know? Yeah. The lack of, it's really, you know, when you're in control of a lot of people, I wouldn't say control, but when you have influence over a great deal of people, you have to have some kind of respect and courtesy, and you have to have some kind of ethic. And these guys don't have that. I mean, I don't even know where their heads are. Obviously, their heads are up somewhere else, but it's very disappointing on a lot of different levels, to say the least. Well, if you decide to run for president, I'll vote for you.
All right. I'll write myself in and you can vote for me.
I think I'm going to write myself in too at this point, yeah. You know, hey, we couldn't do any worse than what they've done. That's for darn sure.
Yeah.
You think about it. Hey, have you noticed an increase in the contactee abduction cases over this, like, how about this year? Have you noticed more and more people getting implanted?
Well, it was going up and up for a number of years, and over the last couple of months, I've heard it's actually declined. So we're probably due for another big flap later in the summer, I'm thinking, but we'll see.
Interesting. Is it in the United States or outside the U.S.?
All over the world, probably, mostly in the U.S.
Okay. When you get contacted, when they contact you, is it do you get people from outside the U.S. though?
Yeah.
You do?
Yeah, there's people from outside the U.S. Canada, I know people from Canada that have been affected, and people from Europe, England. It's a worldwide phenomenon, definitely.
Oh, that's interesting. And what about the sex or the age? Male or female?
They tend to go for younger, middle-aged people. The probability that they'll take a person out of the program goes up with age, but some people are in the program for life. They want to see what happens in their later life, and other people are kicked out of the program when they're too old or sick to work for them, or in their 60s or 70s.
So what is your take on the black-eyed children?
I don't know. I don't think that sounds like hybrids to me. It sounds like it's either a made-up phenomenon or it's demonic or something. It does not sound alien to me somehow. Yeah,
almost like an interdimensional thing too, possibly. Yeah. Well, I know you can get the black contact lenses for sure, and you can look like one. But there is a deal with the black oil, from what I understand. I know Miles Johnson's really big on that.
Yeah, the black-eyed children, everybody says that they just radiate just scum-sucking evil, and if they were hybrids, I've never heard of people describing hybrids that way. Hybrids are just strange-looking people. A lot of them are actually fairly attractive.
It almost sounds like an urban legend to me, but I guess there are people who have actually experienced it.
Yeah, I tend to agree. I think there's a lot more evidence for hybrids living among us than there is for black-eyed children.
Well, yeah, I guess they always want to come in your house. They sound like a government agency to me. They just kind of loiter outside your door and say, let us in.
There are government agencies and mind control techniques trying to scare people.
Oh, that's funny.
That's even more likely.
Well, the funny thing is, once you can't get, once the fear breaks and you can't be afraid of anything, it's just like, what are you going to do? I mean, seriously, you get numb to everything. Is that all they got? Because that's what question I have. I mean, literally, is this it? Is this the best I can do? Because what they're doing now is just creating a lot of chaos and crap. But honestly, I'm not afraid. I know a lot of other people aren't either. And and I never will be.
Me. Yeah, I'm with you. Nothing scares me anymore.
Yeah, I'm like, are you kidding me? So it's just very disappointing on so many different levels because you expect more out of a government or a corporation, whatever you want to call it these days. You expect more, and obviously we didn't get that. So, yeah, I'm not going to bear their cross.
Yeah, they expect us to be all sure. We've heard it all at this point. Nothing scares me anymore except for maybe a few seconds in extreme cases, and then I'm used to it.
Yeah. Well, I'll tell you what, it's a weird world, and just get your surfboard out and try to navigate as best you can. And had you read my book like 10 years ago, Transmutation Through Ascension, it's all about good things, positive energy, ascension, and everything that's we're connected to. So unfortunately, I got dragged into this other stuff. But so I know we talked a little bit about Dr. Leir, the late Dr. Leir, being a contactee before in previous shows. Do you get that?
Yeah, I could tell from reading his book and picked up a couple of times. He described
what sounds like abduction experiences in his book, where he was dragged before some sort of a tribunal with aliens staring at him, and he was saying, "Who are you and what do you want?" Or anyone else in his back in bed.
Yeah, it's really interesting.
So I tend to think that the vast majority probably of people that are extremely into the subject are contactees.
I would say so also. Yeah, exactly. And he didn't have any implants, or did you scan him for implants? Did you say you didn't?
No, I never did, and he never would let me. He acknowledged to me that he was probably a contactee, but he didn't want to find out any more about it because he was afraid of it compromising his reputation as a researcher. He believes that somebody should be out there on the UFO circuit either as a public contactee or as a researcher, and not both. So.
Yeah. Well, I tend to think a lot of people that get pulled into this type of research have been either experienced it or definitely pulled into some degree on some level. There's no doubt about that. Unfortunately, for good or for worse. I mean, I wouldn't have seen myself doing this 10 years ago. That's for darn sure. I had a life. I mean, I wasn't about to get on radio and talk about this stuff. Just, what am I supposed to do? Just let it slide? I don't think so. Not on my watch.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, I mean, most people that are they're contactees that have gone public have told me it was a big mistake. Willie Strieber and a couple other people, probably don't want their names mentioned, have told me that. And you have, even in this day and age, you pretty much have everything to lose, especially if you work for somebody else. You have everything to lose and nothing to gain by talking about these experiences. I think it's okay to talk about them at UFO conventions. That's kind of a free space on the Monopoly board. You could jump up and down there and say, "I'm a squid," or something equally silly, and nobody would pay any notice to it. But if you do it publicly outside UFO conventions, you're liable to get some blowback even in this day and age.
Right. What's really interesting is it's like the Dark Ages almost. I swear, nothing really changes, does it? I mean, obviously consciousness can change through people, but it seems to me like the majority of people are really just in la-la land. They're just not awakened. They're not in tune. And, they want to point fingers and swords at people who are, so, which is really unfortunate. But I see that also. I mean, if you don't work for yourself and you're not an entrepreneur and you try to get involved in these, work in general, how are you supposed to be able to talk about anything? I mean, literally, forget it.
Well, I believe the corporate government, freedom, false freedom, propaganda for quite some time, and I finally it took me a while to accept it because it was so horrific to my sensibilities. But really, in this country, you're not a full citizen unless you own a company, are independently wealthy, and have some sort of connection to government or law enforcement. Those three things are what's required to really make you free in this country.
Yeah.
Being one of the masses really have no rights or very few.
That's very true. They're workers. They even call them that.
Yeah.
I mean, they literally call them workers, as in slaves, as in subjects.
This is not a classless society anymore. The classes are based on money. I mean, it's always been that way, but it's that way to a greater extent now than ever before.
Exactly. Well, what do you think the end game is for everybody here?
Well, it seems like the end game is to enslave everybody and turn this into a third world type nation like Mexico, where a few ruling families own everything, and there's no middle sorry to say, that are doing that.
Well, yeah, we're certainly getting enough people crossing the border. No questions asked, too. You know, it's just okay. They actually get to fly without any identification. I mean, what's up with that? I mean, illegally.
All I know is I think that if we were going to be invading, I think our tax dollars would have been much better spent invading Mexico and sorting out this mess down there and making the place more prosperous than invading Iraq. And there's no real reason why Mexico should be as poor as it is. They've got plenty of resources.
You know what?
They're ruling them. They take everything, and that's what trickles down to the masses.
Right, and if you don't watch out, it's going to come over here too, to a point where people aren't going to have anything for minimum wage and any form of design.
That crap is going to be at your doorstep if you don't do something about it, people.
Yeah, it really is, and unfortunately, it's he's got I don't know what to call him. He's not a president. I will not call him a president. I don't know what he thinks he is. He's some kind of a little. What's that?
You mean the usurper in chief?
I'm telling you, man, it's like a CIA clone. He's having a ball up there. He's just completely being reckless.
No, I remember when he was a senator. I remember that's when he was a senator. People on the Senate floor saying that he was born in Kenya. They said that. I think they even repeated it once on Fox News, and they've got enough evidence against this guy as far as being a natural born citizen. He was a foreign student at Occidental College in the 80s. How does that work? Going from now to being a natural born American. Mm-hmm. He was a foreign student from Indonesia named Barry Satora. Even his name is fake.
Well, think about the middle name too, Hussein. That sums it all up to me. You know what? And I'm nice to everybody. Don't get me wrong. I'm not trying to bash anybody. I don't care what you do. I don't care what color you are, what you worship. I don't care if you worship the Pillsbury Doughboy. But don't take down this country, and don't be a Trojan horse to take down this country. And don't.
Well, I'm not against any religion except Islam. I think Islam is a subversive political philosophy. I don't even consider it a real religion.
Well, I think a lot of religions are brainwashing, period. End of story. Excuse me. Anytime you have religion in general, it's a control mechanism, and people may not want to understand that.
Any so-called religion that says right in black and white that it's okay to kill people that are because they're not the same religion as you had not to be allowed.
Yeah, that's just insane. That's an old witch hunt. There's a thing called coexist, and if animals can usually do it, why can't mankind, right? That's the bottom line. But when you're using your religion as an agenda to control, manipulate the masses, which they all do, or to persecute and harm people and stone them to death, and that's a crock, and that's not acceptable in any form of design. And instead of people being bullied or it's politically correct, we can't say this, BS, you can't. You know what? You stand up and you stand up for accountability and standing up for yourself.
Oh yeah, they're as far as you could possibly get from being politically correct.
Oh, I know.
They're still living like dogs and. Yeah. Stone people to death for things that have not been anybody else's business, and just generally cut people's hands and feet off and just act like savages. And there's no religious freedom over there. They can stone you to death just for wanting to convert to another religion.
You know what's really amazing about them? It's like they're so gore-oriented. It's like, dude, can't you, there's a thing in the military where you kill somebody. If you have to take somebody out in the battlefield, you do it with class. You don't sit there and torture people. You just take them out. You kill them clean. That's it. They're dead. You don't sit there and play games and chop things off and get sadistic. There's something wrong with that. And you know what? I'm not even shocked by their disgusting behavior. I just find it ridiculous and very unevolved. And maybe some point in the continuum they'll kind of comprehend a higher consciousness. But I'll tell you point blank, they're not going anywhere, because what they've been doing for a very, very long time, and it has not gotten them anywhere. What, they're going to kill everybody on the planet with their agenda? Big deal. Then they're going to get squashed. I mean, don't they understand how the universe works? It's ebb and flow. And if you think you're the biggest king of the hill, BS, man. Something's going to come down on you real hard. I can guarantee that one, folks. So I guess I've been talking a lot tonight, you guys. I'm a little bit energized, shall we say? Super full moon. So, Steve, I really appreciate you being here on tonight. We're getting ready to wrap this up here. I can't believe it. But do stay tuned for Shiny Side Out with David Dunder at Mickey. Coming up next to sail you on into the night from Down Under. Of course, they always have a wonderful show, and I believe they have Ollie Damigard on their show talking about conspiracies. So that kind of dovetails in, for sure. Well, if there's anything you want to leave the audience with, Steve, what is it you'd like to say?
Well, I'd like to say that the whole UFO alien thing is all true. I mean, I've seen craft in orbit with night vision scopes and doing maneuvers that cannot be done by chemically fueled spacecraft. I've seen alien evidence, landing traces, UV fluorescent eyes, alien writing or looks like alien writing, strange bruises, red triangle marks, snoop marks, all kinds of stuff left behind on people's bodies. Seen implants, sophisticated technological devices, in people claiming alien contact. I've seen UFOs,
Can you elaborate on that real quick? The kind of UFOs you've seen?
Yeah, my two best sightings were in '87. My ex-wife and I were heading east on Highway 40, and a quarter mile in diameter, glowing yellow disc-shaped object came from above our eyes and paralleled the freeway. Cars were slowing down to look at it along 3 or 4 smaller objects, and we looked at it for a good 10 minutes. It's just hard to know what to do when you see something like that. Your jaw just drops about 3 feet, and it was like they were showing off. And I just don't think we could build anything that big or that impressive looking.
Not even through the underground?
I doubted it. I mean, this is big. It was like a quarter mile in diameter. It was probably one of the larger disc-shaped devices for ships they make. And another really impressive sighting was in 2008, a black triangle flew right over my house in Fillmore, and it had 7 white lights in the long leading edge and made kind of a whooshing sound, but a lot less noise than a regular jet. And it went right over the house, and it had a red, round, like cherry red, almost monochromatic with the light in the center and 2 strobes on either side of that. And it shined a spotlight on me when it flew over the house, and this is from like 10,000 feet, but they shined a light right on me, and that freaked me out.
That sounds like a black budget program, don't you think, or no? You think that's one of ours?
I don't know. The first one, I'm pretty darn sure was alien. The second could be either one.
I wonder if they're actually reverse engineering one that's like a black triangle, their version of the black triangle.
I've heard that they have. They're supposed to have a craft called the TR-8 that replicates that description.
That's what I thought too. That's what it sounds like. So they obviously have their nice little things they can deploy when they want to. This is what cracks me up, and I've always sent this as a challenge to these guys in these underground with their fancy little vehicles, and they think they're all that in a bag of chips and a Snickers bar. I wish you guys would move your butts from the underground, from down there to up here, so you can help us out, so we can start cleaning up this country and this land and this world. And if you guys have any, maybe you'll do that. So that's my challenge to them. Okay. Got to do something, right? That's my request.
Well, we just need to become higher focused people in many respects.
Well, I think just being compassionate for your fellow man and having some empathy would help too. Yeah,
this whole thing about just having zero humanity. I mean, no matter what your political beliefs, that's just not acceptable. People need to stand up for what's right. I mean, that's why I'm against Islam. It's not because I'm against religious freedom, far from it, but they have stuff written into their belief system that just plain wrong. I mean, it just can't be allowed if you have a free society.
No, I agree with that too. I mean, well, what goes around comes around, and I'll tell you, eventually it's gonna hit them in the butt. Let's put it that way. And I'm not real big on any religion in any form or design, to be honest. I don't believe in forced religions, and they've done more damage than good on this planet throughout the century.
I've been on the receiving end of an awful lot of nasty stuff from some so-called Christians lately too. So there's a lot of intolerance in most religions apparently, and many people more than I ever thought possible use religion as just a kind of a cloak to say how holy they are and they can do no wrong. So.
Oh well. Yeah, I encountered a lady one time. I'm obviously a witch, right? I'm Wiccan, and I'm old craft too. But it was funny because she looked at me. She goes, "Well, I'm a Christian, and I have a one-way ticket to heaven." And I thought, well, that's nice, you know. But, you know, there's a difference between being a Christian and being Christed. And I think people need to understand that. You know, the Christ consciousness is about unconditional love and acceptance, and it's not about religion and boundaries, not at all. So they don't even understand the language yet, you know. I mean, don't get me started on that, because we could do like another 2-hour show on that, and maybe someday I will. But honestly, they really need a wake-up call on so many different levels. Too many wars in the name of God, too many. And a lot of those gods are false gods, without a doubt there. But I do want to thank everybody for tuning in tonight. I hope you did enjoy the show. And Steve, it's a pleasure and an honor to have you on always. And you're my space brother from another mother. I have plenty of those out there. Every time I turn around, I'm interviewing one of you guys. So thank you for being on. And when you get new updates, you know, I'd like to keep you on as a regular when I can. And just give me a shout and come back on anytime.
All right, good.
Yeah, and thank you guys in the chat room, too. You guys are wonderful in there. I hear you going back and forth in there. So thank you, everybody. And I think that just about wraps it up. We'll probably have about a minute or so out of here. So I always ask about the moon, because I have a fascination with the supermoon anyway. And obviously, for me, this is a positive thing. You know, everybody gets all weirded out on lunar activity. I love lunar activity. And I find it very empowering. So what do you think? What's your take on the lunar energies?
Well, I'm fascinated by the moon, and I think it's a major alien base, and I think that's why we never went back. They told us not to come back. There's a lot of anomalies about the moon. It's the strange moon and solar system in a lot of ways.
It is. And with that being said, take a good look at that supermoon tonight and enjoy it, you guys. And I'll see you next week. And thank you again. Thanks, Steve.
All right, thanks a lot. I'll see you on.
Yep.
Thank you for listening to Revolution Radio.